Their defense is a joke.
What it really comes down to is I would love to have either of them.
They don't have a prayer in their secondary. They have nothing.
So you're saying just don't draft Blunt?
I'm saying don't draft Blunt.
He was unbelievably efficient last year.
You know that they use their running backs in the passing game a ton.
I'm drafting him tonight.
That's Team Huevos. Huevos gigantes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined again by Mike Tagliere. He's back. Tags, how you doing, buddy?
Oh man, well I've been better, but I'm pulling through. I was given the live stream off to try and save my voice, so yeah, it's just basically my throat. It's fine though. I just need to get through the Thanksgiving and enjoy some food with the family. So hopefully the sickness doesn't last long. I'm just happy to be back, man. I like talking football, and I really do miss when I'm not on the show.
It's so funny because you guys are probably sitting there thinking like, oh man, Tag sounds sick. Guys, before the show, he sounded so much worse. Like he is putting on a show right now so much just by trying to not act super sick. I'm excited about our guest today as well. We've got Derrick Brown. He's on Twitter at @DBro_FFB. He's a writer for the Quant Edge. And you know Joe Pisapia that came on yesterday that does our, he writes the, not ours, he writes the Black Books, the award-winning series. Derrick helps him write those. He's a co-author for them, and Derrick's a great guest. We're looking forward to having you on, Derrick. Thanks for coming on.
Guys, look, thank y'all for having me. This is going to be a blast. Yeah, Joe stuck me with, as the new guy in the door, I got stuck with tight ends and kickers, so... Take that for what it's worth. I had to fall on the sword like the samurai this year. But no, it's been a blast, man. I can't believe we're already at week 13. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's nuts.
It makes me sad, dude.
Fantasy playoffs next week, and that's the part where it's like, okay, this sickness cannot come at a worse time. It's like, this is the home stretch. I mean, this is where we all need to be at our best. So, again, I'm sorry for missing the podcast yesterday, and I'm happy to be back.
So it's a really interesting week, guys. So for those of you who don't know, this is our Start Sit podcast. We're going to be talking rankings, helping you make those Start Sit decisions. We usually record on Wednesday, and since it's Tuesday, I mean, it's a tight week for everybody in the industry. We're all in a crunch, getting as much content squeezed into 3 days as we possibly can. And so it's just going to be interesting doing our rankings now. There's a lot of injury information we don't know, so we might have to skip over some of that. As always, though, Tags is going to have his primer with a paragraph on every single player playing. If you have questions, check out Tags' primer. He can give you a better answer on there than he can through Twitter in 160 characters or whatever it is. I'm going to be releasing my rankings article tomorrow. If you have start-sit questions that we don't answer on this show, you can refer to those rankings. I'm going to update them every couple of hours up through Thursday, up until Sunday kickoff as well. And again, you can reach Derrick on Twitter at @DBro_FFB. We all answer as many questions as we possibly can. Again, the shorter you keep them, the more likely we are to get to yours, and the more straightforward and simple. Hey, half PPR, start 2 of these 3, blah, 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 of these guys, okay? That's really going to help us, and if you write polls as well, we're more likely to respond to those. We'd love to get to as many of them as possible. We're not trying to show you guys up or anything like that. It's just we only have so much time, and we have a lot of writing to do as well. You guys ready to talk about starter sit?
Yeah, let's
absolutely.
Dive in.
All right, guys, we'll start at the running back position. And as always, we're not going to talk about guys that you always start no matter what. Le'Veon Bell, Melvin Gordon is in there now. Against Denver, it's actually a pretty good matchup as well. Does Phillip Lindsay belong in that conversation, Derrick?
Yeah, Phillip Lindsay's been a guy that you got to be divided on right now. I mean, you got to love the matchup versus the Chargers. We've seen them give up a ton of rushing yards. It's just, does he get the rock enough? Like, that's the question week in and week out. Your median projection has got, 13, 15 touches? So if he doesn't break off a long run, I think the ECR is a little bit higher on Lindsay than I possibly am, but I'm curious where y'all are at, because I look at him as probably more of a low-end RB2 than a high-end.
Tags, where do you have him, man? I've got him at RB20 right now.
Yeah, he's someone that's going to be in the middling RB2 conversation for me. I mean, the Chargers, if you look at their team as a whole, they're a team that really does defend the pass really well. And apparently Derwin James might come back this week. I haven't seen any official word on that, but if he comes back, obviously it's going to be a boost, a strong safety for them. They've been playing with backup safeties all year long, even lost one of their backups to their backups. So they've been struggling in that aspect of the field, but getting James back is going to help them in all aspects. The biggest concern about this game is that the over-under is, I think, at 38 points. That's like I want to say it's the lowest total on the week. And the good news is that Phillip Lindsay is getting a ton of work in comparison to Royce Freeman. They are going with Lindsay more moving forward, but Brandon Allen has not targeted the running back, so it really does cap his upside. I think he's a safe floor play where he's a guy that's probably going to see, close to 15 carries in this game. Looking at it, the Chargers have allowed, I think it's 9 different running backs to finish his top 14 options. So it isn't a bad matchup against the Chargers. That is the weakness of their team. I think their linebackers are the weakest point, even when they're at full strength. But we're trending in the right direction with Lindsay. I think Royce Freeman is finally out of the conversation where you don't start him almost like unless it's a dire emergency. But yeah, I think Lindsay is a relatively safe running back where it's a slate full of running backs that we're either in a terrible matchup or we're wondering about their workload. Are they a 3-down back? I would just like to see Brandon Allen target the running backs a little bit more.
So Derek earlier mentioned ECR. ECR is called, it's our expert consensus ranking. So we've got 100 analysts throughout the industry who come to Fantasy Pros and give us their rankings for our rankings competition so we can tell you guys who are the most accurate experts. Teg, you're beating me right now, but I'm catching you, baby. And so you can follow along at fantasypros.com/rankings because we mash everybody in the industry together and say, as a consensus, this is what the analysts in the industry are recommending. So for instance, Phillip Lindsay is at RB14. I've got him a little bit lower, and you can just follow along and see what the analysts in the industry are thinking about these players. But in regards to Phillip Lindsay, yeah, it's a great matchup against the Chargers. He had a great matchup last week against the Bills, and he went for 7 fantasy points. And the thing was, we thought that they finally just overall turned over this backfield to Phillip Lindsay. 52 snaps to 24 in Week 11, and guess what? They went right back to Freeman, leading the team in snaps for the 7th time in 8 weeks for Denver. That concerns me a little bit. Now, I'm still starting Phillip Lindsay. I think he's a start every week, but I'd be more inclined to start someone like David Montgomery. What do you guys think about Montgomery this week? Derek, you first.
I'm not actually on Montgomery. If I'm taking one of the Bears backs, I actually think it's Tariq Cohen. You look at Detroit and where they've been just gashed is through the air. I mean, they're giving up a ton of yardage to opposing teams' running backs. Yeah. And so if I'm going to go with the Bears back, it's not Montgomery. I actually think Cohen's usage has been trending up. Yeah,
Yes, it has.
Detroit's given up the 3rd most receiving yards to opposing running backs. They've given up 7 touchdowns through the air. So I like the thought on the Bears running back, but it's not Montgomery for me.
I like Cohen quite a bit too. I like him a lot more than ECR. I think Montgomery tags is going to get 15-plus touches against one of the worst run defenses in football. Where do you have Montgomery? Where do you have Cohen?
Yeah, Montgomery's somebody that I do like quite a bit this week, and it's really rough though because the Lions had been a run defense to attack, but over the last 3 weeks they've held a combination of Montgomery, Cohen, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, Darius Geis, and Adrian Peterson to just 3.28 yards per carry and 1 touchdown in those 3 games. So it's almost like they've put a focus on stopping the run and saying we're going to let our defense do what they do and force Trubisky to beat us. That's what they did in the first meeting, and Trubisky is someone that's actually played really well against the Lions. He's only played them twice, obviously, but it's both the Matt Nagy offense, it's Matt Patricia, and it seemed like Trubisky just seems to play better against man coverage teams, and that's what they're doing. So Montgomery, the reason I like him more than Cohen is because the Bears have had 14 carries available inside the 5-yard line this year, and Montgomery has gotten 13 of them. So if you're betting on the Bears to score or win this game or whatever the case may be, you want to bet on him to get the touchdown. And I think that they were lightening his workload a little bit against the Rams and maybe even a little bit last week against the Giants because he was dealing with that ankle sprain. So I kind of like both of them. I think Cohen is on the RB3 radar. I think you could start him confidently, but I think Montgomery belongs in the RB2 conversation this week as a guy that should see 16 touches against a defense that, looking at as a whole, haven't been very good against the run, even though they have turned things around as of late.
For what it's worth, David Montgomery's ECR is 20, and I can't understand this. Tariq Cohen's is 37. Over the last 2 weeks, he's got 15 carries, 15 targets. That's the workload that we like to see. When he was getting that last year, and he was a top 15 fantasy football running back, and he's got a great matchup against Detroit. Now, obviously, the offense isn't as good as it was last year, but I think Cohen is a lock to produce flex value. I've got him ranked well inside my top 30 without hesitation, so I love that call, Derek. Now, there's 2 big-time problem backs here, okay? Kris Carson seemed to lose his job last week. I don't know if they're going to go back to him. A lot of people are excited about Rashad Penny. Regardless, they have a horrible matchup face Minnesota. His ECR is 16. Tevin Coleman's is 18. Not a very good matchup against Baltimore. He's been out-touched and out-snapped by Raheem Mostert. Maybe Matt Breida comes back. Derek, do you feel comfortable starting both Kris Carson and Tevin Coleman this week.
I don't feel comfortable starting Carson.
Wow, okay.
Look, you just never know what Sneaky Pete's going to do. Like, there is no idea that anybody can have a perfect read on what Carroll is willing to do week in and week out. As much as we've seen Kris Carson put the ball on the turf, I can't feel confident starting him right now. Would it surprise anybody? I mean, I'll open this to the floor. Would it surprise either one of y'all if Pete Carroll made this a 50-50 split this week and Penny got more work? I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
Oh, I think that's likely. I was saying more along the lines of, did he lose his job?
No, I think so. I think that's absolutely in question. So, yeah, if it's between the two guys, it's Coleman for me because I know where the touches go if the 49ers get in close. It's going to be Tevin Coleman. He is their goal line back. Ever since he's been back, the Jeff Wilson show has been nada anymore, and it's Tevin Coleman when they get inside the 5.
Tags Tevin Coleman last 5 weeks. 11 carries, 12 carries, 9 carries, 12 carries, 11 carries. And that was in 5 good matchups. Now he gets Baltimore this week. I'm concerned about Tevin Coleman's workload. I mean, I'm concerned about Kris Carson too, but even last week he had a 50-50 split and he still, went for 8 fantasy points. Like, that's his floor. Tevin Coleman has shown to have a lesser floor than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really didn't understand the ranking of Tevin Coleman at 18 in the ECR. Like, I'm going to have him outside my top 25 running backs this week.
Me too.
I don't like him at all. Yep. He's a guy, as you mentioned, he hasn't topped 12 carries since way back in week 7. Honestly, there was one game he had. It was against the Panthers. Everybody scores touchdowns against the Panthers. But you look at the Ravens, and they're a team like, running backs have averaged just 21 touches per game against the Ravens. That's the lowest number in the league. And so when you combine that with the fact that we're starting to see the 49ers pass a little bit more, you're starting to see the touches go down. And if Matt Breida comes back, it's like all of a sudden Coleman might be in like a 10 to 12 touch role. And why are we trusting a guy that's inefficient in that role? Like he's not a guy that breaks big plays. The Ravens have been fantastic outside of one game against Nick Chubb when they were missing defensive tackle Brandon Williams. So I don't like Coleman at all. I mean, if Breida misses the game, I like him a little bit more, but he'd still be in RB3 territory for me.
He's still startable. Like if you've got him in an RB3 territory, you can flex him. I would just much rather play guys. We'll get to these guys. Ronald Jones, Miles Sanders, Bo Scarborough. I'd rather play any of those guys than Tevin Coleman this week.
Yeah, I would rather play David Montgomery like we talked about already.
Yes.
But I might rather play Matt Breida. If Breida plays in this game, I'd probably play him over Coleman because at least Breida gives you the opportunity for a big play. Like Tevin Coleman does not break long plays
He also gives you the opportunity of leaving the game in the first quarter with
That's also true, but I'll take that. Tevin Coleman basically has left the game in the first quarter because he's finished with 45 or less rushing yards in 5 of his last 7 games.
So how do you feel about Carson and the Penny situation? I mean, are you playing either of them? You playing both of them? You playing one of them?
I'm going to believe what Pete Carroll tells us because someone's going to ask him that.
You are? He's such a liar, dude. That is.
I don't.
That's a hot take.
That's risky.
This is a narrative that I've disagreed with for a long time. Pete Carroll puts the best guy on the field, and he is willing to do that. He doesn't care what they're paid. He doesn't care. Like they talked about trading Rashad Penny. That showed basically it was about to happen, but nobody gave the asking price they wanted. And if they were willing to do that, it means they were willing to live with Kris Carson, who he is. They understand he's a bruising running back. He's going to fight for extra yardage, and the fumbles that he had in this game were just like more of like a miscommunication. So I think he does carry that job. I think they're going to mix in Penny a little bit more, maybe just to give more of a breather, but I would rather start Kris Carson than Tevin Coleman, 100%.
Me too. Yeah, I've got Carson at 22. I've got Coleman at 27 right now.
Yeah, there's risk with Carson for sure, but I'd still play him.
The other thing about Carson, too, is that if you look at the Vikings, it's not on the ground where they've been torched. If Seattle is forced, they cannot run the ball. Their corners have been terrible. Trey Waynes has been horrible. The road has been absolutely open with anybody going against Xavier Rhodes this year. So if Seattle was going to move the ball, I think they air it out. And I think that DK Metcalf had a huge game, and Carson could kind of do nothing in this one.
Carson's still a little bit involved in the passing game, but it is risky, man. There's a lot of guys that are good enough starts that I could potentially see benching Kris Carson in Week 13, needing to make the playoffs. Now, I'm going to give you guys 3 names, okay? This is for more shallow leagues. Most people are going to be starting these guys. But if you have to choose between the 3 of them, Tags, you're going to go first. Todd Gurley at Arizona. Joe Mixon at the Jets. Devin Singletary at Dallas.
Gurley for me. The Rams want Todd Gurley back in the role they had. I think they're trying to get back to the way that they used to. Unfortunately, Jared Goff has sucked. But Goff, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to be touting Jared Goff this week as a play. I'm going to rank him on top 10. I've been someone that's literally slandering Goff all year long and saying don't play him. Like literally he's droppable and he's a streaming quarterback at best. This is a week where I'm going to play him, and I think that this game with an over under of 47, the Rams are favored by 4 on the road. I like this game to go over. I actually think this is going to be a higher scoring game. Both teams they allow their opponents tons of plays, and but as long as there's scoring opportunities, Todd Gurley is going to be in the game. They need wins right now, and Todd Gurley, he's looked fine. I mean, I know
9 touches though on Monday night.
Well, that was basically, if you watch that game, there was there was nothing. They had nothing against the Ravens, and the Ravens look like the best team in the NFL right now. Honestly, with the way Lamar Jackson played last night, you can't stop it. You basically need him to cool off in order to beat that team because their defense is playing top notch. Basically,
and we've seen this before with Gurley, right? When they were whooping on the Bengals, when the game's not close, Todd Gurley comes out.
Right. I don't think they're going to whoop on the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game where I think teams can go back and forth with a lot of plays. And I'm expecting Gurley to get 18 plus touches in this game and finish as I would say that he's probably going to finish as a top 15 running back this week.
All right, Derek, do you agree? Todd Gurley, Joe Mixon, Singletary. You taking Gurley?
I think that Gurley is the play here only because of touchdown equity. I think that Gurley, we've seen him, he comes off the bye week versus the Bears, he gets a ton of run. And yes, the Ravens steamrolled the Rams. That is absolutely true. The thing that scares me about Todd Gurley is if anybody's and I don't want to be team #watch the Tate, but it's true, the guy has no lateral agility this year. And because Tax is talking about it, I do like Goff a lot this week. Arizona's secondary is terrible. But I lean Gurley because of the touchdown equity. If they get in close, he can have a terrible stat line. He could put up a Ben Jarvis Green Ellis stat line and get you 2 touchdowns. And that, because of his touchdown equity, puts him above the other two. Mixon's in a terrible matchup versus the Jets. The only run defense better, well, actually, they're not. Right now, if you look at every single metric, the Jets are top 7 in every single running back metric right now. They're even above the Buccaneers as a terrible matchup. So Mixon's an easy cross-off. Singletary, he could get 100 yards because you can run on Dallas, but the fact of it is that when they get in close, Josh Allen is the one that's going to get the goal line dive.
Yes. And Frank Gore's still plenty involved, too.
Yes.
I mean, they're all 3 of these guys are in my top 22. I feel confident starting any of them, but between the 3 of them, I agree. It's Gurley for me. Like you were talking about, week 4 against Tampa Bay, 5 carries, 16 yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 5 against Seattle, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's who Todd Gurley is at this point, and he's actually being involved more in the past. Now, he had 3 games in a row where he had, 1 target, but they've been getting him 4, 3, 3 the past couple of weeks. Now, it's not like he was last year, but he's still involved in the passing game now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get 3 more running backs here. These ones are a little bit more interesting in my mind. Jonathan Williams against Tennessee. Bo Scarborough against the Chicago Bears. Tags, you're going to go first again. And let's go Benny Snell against the Cleveland Browns. Williams, Scarborough, Snell.
Could I choose Ronald Jones over them all?
Yes.
I wasn't even going to ask about Ronald Jones because he's so far in my top 20 that it wasn't even a question for me. But yeah, his ECR is 23.
Yeah, but I mean, I would choose him over everybody there. But Jonathan Williams would be my pick. He's a guy. I mean, back-to-back 100-yard games. I mean, I wasn't necessarily a believer, and I was worried about the timeshare, but he's done nothing to lose that job. Absolutely nothing. Marlon Mac has already been ruled out for this game.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jonathan Williams here. Tennessee, it's not a great matchup for running backs, but at the same time, they've been a better matchup as the weeks have gone on, and we just saw Leonard Fournette have a massive game against them. Fournette looked really good, by the way, in that game. Fournette showed more burst than I think I've ever seen him have in the NFL. It was almost like he was running with a will. And
how much has he improved as a pass catcher too? Holy cow.
Yeah, he's caught passes throughout his career. I remember we had a segment this offseason, and we talked about things that people. It was in our Family Feud segment, our Fantasy Feud, that basically it was what are things that people think are true that aren't actually true? And I said that Leonard Fournette isn't a good PPR running back because he has been, and he's a guy that can catch passes, been plenty competent, but he's third. Did you guys know he is third in the NFL, among running backs in targets, behind Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler? That's it.
I fully believe it. Yep. Fully believe it.
I mean, I watch all the Jags games, so I believe it, but that kind of surprises me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, so I would agree with that. Ronald Jones I've got him at 16, guys. Like, who am I kidding? He's going to tear up Jacksonville. It's a matter of if they give him the carries. He had 12 last week, 4 the week before, but he's involved in the passing game quite a bit as well. And those were bad running matchups, bad game scripts as well. I don't think that's the case this week against Jacksonville. So, Derek, let me ask you, would you prefer Ronald Jones, Jonathan Williams? Who were the other ones? Benny Snell and Bo Scarborough. Of these 4, which would you prefer?
It's Ronald Jones for me. And
okay.
You look at it, the Colts they ran for over 200 yards versus this Jacksonville team. Over the last 3 weeks, they've given up on average to running backs 192 yards on the ground and 7.5 yards a carry. Ronald Jones could have 15 touches in this game, and he's a good shot to break a 50-yard run. If there's any game that Rojo is going to hit the 100-yard mark, it's now or never, baby. Like, it's going to happen this week. I'm calling it.
Like I said, I'm a Jags fan. They do not care whatsoever on defense. You can, Calais Campbell saying, this team has a ton of heart. We're not going to give up. You guys already gave up. You guys aren't trying at all. I'm fine with that because I want the higher pick. Like, you're not going to make the playoffs, but don't pretend that you guys are trying. Like, you're not tackling whatsoever. So who's number 2 on this list then? Jonathan Williams, Scarborough, or Snell?
I think it's Jonathan Williams, and you look at the offense and just the offensive line behind him. I mean, the Colts are going to get pushed. We know that is absolutely going to happen. But if you look at going up against Tennessee, you can run on the Tennessee Titans. Like, even with Jarrell Casey back last week, like, that's a possibility. Like, I fully believe that Jonathan Williams is going to he's a lock for, 18 to 20 touches in this one. And going up against Tennessee, yes, they're 6th in rush DVOA. But if you look at the metrics more in depth, they're also 25th in open field rankings. So if the offensive line can get the running back in space, can they make plays? Jonathan Williams might be just a jag. He might not be like a special talent. But this offensive line, you also marry that with the running back play. And with that, with Jonathan Williams, I'm full in on him this week.
I don't think Scarborough or Snell are bad starts. I've got them at 25 and 27. Chicago's a run funnel defense. You can't pass against them. Their run defense is not that great. Now, Benny Snell, it depends on if James Conner's out again, obviously. If he is out, I think he's got the job over Jalen Samuels. Would you agree, Tags?
Yeah, he does have the job, but I'm really concerned about the offense in general. So Snell's not involved in the passing game, so if the game script goes south, he's basically uninvolved.
Right.
He's kind of a plotter, and we can't take a matchup that he had last week against the Bengals, the team that can't tackle. And I know Cleveland's going to be missing some starters, but they do get Ogunjobi back on the defensive line this week. That's obviously going to help up the middle. This is going to be a dirty game with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Obviously, it's the rematch of what happened a couple weeks ago, but that's going to be a nasty game, and I just don't see Benny Snell making very much of an impact. I would rather play Tariq Cohen over someone like Benny Snell.
Agreed. And with Scarborough, I mean, he's possibly tied to the 3rd string quarterback possibly this week on the Lions. I mean,
Driscoll might not play.
I mean,
going up against the Bears too. Like, they're going to stack the box all day.
Well, and this is saying in 2019, do you want to play LeGarrette 2.0 and Bo Scarborough, or do you want to play any other back? And I'm not going for LeGarrette Blount 2.0.
All right, let's get 4 more running backs. Then we'll go to, if you're really desperate, who do you pick up? Although not as many people are going to be desperate with bye weeks. Austin Eckler against Denver. He's been pretty volatile since Melvin Gordon came back. We'll go Carlos Hyde against the Patriots. Miles Sanders against Miami. I love the matchup, obviously. Miles Sanders hasn't really got much done. And let's throw in one more here. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt against Pittsburgh. So let me recap here. Eckler, Carlos Hyde, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt. Tags your first.
Miles Sanders, not even close. I'm going to have Miles Sanders as a top 15 play this week.
Top 15. Oh, man, you got me beat. I thought I was high on him. I've got him at 17.
Yeah, the Eagles are they're a team they're in desperation mode, and they need to win. We don't know if Alshon Jeffrey is going to be back. We don't know if Nelson Aguilar is going to be back, but what we do know is that you can run the ball all over Miami. They've faced 27.7 carries per game. That's a league high. Miles Sanders did have the edge over Jay Ajayi last week. He ran the ball better than Jay Ajayi. He's the guy they drafted in the 2nd round to be that guy. This is a week where they need him.
Yeah, but still only 12 carries. Like, he was the guy and he got 12 carries.
Right. I mean, but the reason is because basically the game just didn't go as they planned it to.
Sure. Okay.
I don't know why they didn't run the ball more, to be honest with you. With Jadeveon Clowney out for the Seahawks, it would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But against Miami, it's like, let's limit our turnovers, let's limit the errors that we can make and keep the ball on the ground. Let Miles Sanders, let him touch the ball 20 times this week. And I think it's happening, honestly. As long as Jordan Howard is out, I'm going to have Miles Sanders as a top 15 play.
So we've got our DFS show tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking about Miles Sanders in cash games. I've already got him locked in. Like, there's no doubt about it for me. I'm playing him. And yes, we are going to be covering the Thanksgiving slate. It's going to be out for Wednesday night so that you can be prepared for that Thanksgiving slate as well. And we'll cover the Sunday main slate. Now, Derek, what do you think about these four that I mentioned? Eckler, Kareem Hunt. Where was the list? I'm losing. I'm sorry, guys. Eckler, Kareem Hunt, Carlos Hyde, Miles Sanders.
I think it's a slam dunk. Like, you didn't have to read the rest of the list off to me, Bobby. Like, it's Sanders, and it's not even close. Miami's 30.
Really? Okay, you've got him over Austin Eckler, too.
I do, man. Like, the Dolphins are 32nd versus running backs in both rushing and receiving, like in DVOA. Like, it's not even close. Sanders is going to get locked in. And we hadn't even talked about the fact that Carson Wentz is banged up, too. So, if he even plays, all their pass catchers are banged up. What is holding back the Eagles from saying, okay, we're just going to give it to Sanders 20 times, let him do what he does, and rest the rest of the team? Like, the Dolphins cannot make this a game. There's no way they make this a game, and Sanders is going to get fed.
Yeah, can you guys see a situation where after this week, it's like going into the fantasy playoffs? Like this week, Ronald Jones and Miles Sanders win fantasy weeks, and people are like, well, it's a good thing that I'm not in the playoffs and it doesn't matter anymore. Like, I could see people saying that, right?
Yeah, I absolutely can. It's going to be wild.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because I'm looking at ECR. Sanders is 26. Austin Eckler's 21. And all three of us agree it's a slam dunk. Like, I don't even feel any hesitation about it. I've got Sanders, like I said, 17. I've got Eckler outside my top 25. Like, yeah, okay, he had 12 targets last week. Week 11. They had the bye in week 12. But before that, he had 2 targets, 6 carries, 4 targets for 23 yards, 3 carries for 19, 3 carries for 3 yards, 2 receptions for 19. Like, he's not involved consistently enough, and they have a bad matchup. I don't love the Eckler play this week, guys.
No.
Eckler, yeah, I don't think Eckler is terrible in terms of, like, I think Phillip Rivers needs to learn to love Austin Eckler because when targeting Keenan Allen, 95 targets, he's 725 yards. Mike Williams, 56 targets, 585 yards. He's thrown 9 interceptions when targeting those guys, whereas Austin Eckler, 667 yards on 74 targets, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, Phillip Rivers is declining rapidly, and it's like he needs to learn to love Austin Eckler. They did use him as like somewhat of a wide receiver at times last week, so they're getting him and Gordon on the field together.
Yeah,
he's the one thing basically Phillip Rivers has going for him right now, and that's why I do think he's going to remain involved. And someone that I'd consider probably like a low end RB2. He's not going to get many scoring opportunities. He is due for crazy regression in terms of like what he's done, like with his 6 receiving touchdowns. But he should offer a decent floor.
I still like him. I mean, I like him more than Kareem Hunt, who we mentioned. I like him more than Carlos Hyde in a horrible matchup against New England. I've actually got Hunt outside my top 30. Now, guys, let's move on. Outside of the top 30, is there anybody that you feel confident starting? Tags, why don't you go first? I've got a couple names.
Well, I mean, we had Tariq Cohen. We talked about him a little bit.
Yeah.
I also think Jamal Williams is probably someone that I would feel semi-confident starting this week. He's this is one of those games where it's like we'll talk about this in the DFS show, but where I feel like it's one of those games where Aaron Rodgers can kind of like, oh, hey guys, remember I'm Aaron Rodgers. Like he kind of did it against the Raiders back earlier in the year, where it was like nobody was playing him because everybody just was like locked in the fact that he'd finished outside the top 20 quarterbacks multiple weeks prior. So I do believe there's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities, and they've been splitting that workload. I mean, I know it was a blowout against the 49ers, but Jamal Williams I think it was like 18 touches. So he's a guy that's getting, it seems like no matter what, he's getting 10 to 12 touches. And if you get that against the Giants team that is obviously going to be concerned about Aaron Rodgers, I think Williams has some appeal as a flex.
Derek, who do you have outside the top 30 that you're feeling?
Tags have one of my guys. I love Jamal Williams. We've seen Aaron Jones' target share just fall to nothing.
It's crazy. I don't know why.
Well, with Davante Adams off and on the field, Jamal Williams' target share has stayed steady. He's rocking an 8% target share, which might not sound like a lot, but unlike Aaron Jones, his has not dried up. And if he continues with that, the Giants are 28th against pass catching running backs. So I like the call by Tags with Williams. Sure. The other guy, if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and this is absolutely matchup play for me, we talked about a little bit, got brought up about how bad the Panthers are versus the run. if there's any week for Callahan to absolutely just go buck wild with establishing the run game, even if it's a split backfield, if Adrian Peterson or Darius Geis, if they're out there on the waiver wire, it's not a beautiful play. And I'm not going to tell you that you don't need to hold your nose whenever you press start, but the Panthers are bottom of the league as far as a rush defense, and they lost on
Yep, exactly.
He tore his quad. He's out now. If you look at the splits, he wasn't great when he was on the field, but it's still a starter going down. So it has to be mentioned. They've given up the 7th most rushing yards and the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL this year. It's not pretty, but it could lead to a win this year in fantasy.
Over under 150 rushing yards for Washington this week, Tags.
I'll probably go with the under, but it's close. I just don't know who to pick between Peterson and Geis. I was going through that. I already went through that game, and like 30. Legit, I said I'd probably lean Geis of the two just because he's a better pass catcher. But I think Peterson probably will get the goal line carries, so maybe I should rethink that.
Derek, would you rather start Darius Geis than Carlos Hyde against New England?
Ooh, It's close.
It's close for me, man.
I would go Geis only because of big play potential, and we've seen the ability of a stout defense. Like the Ravens absolutely just ransacked the Texans last week. With the way the Patriots are playing, could we not see that in the range of outcomes for the Texans? So, I do lean that way, yeah. I would say I'm a little bit lower on Hyde.
Only other one I wanted to mention is Latavius Murray. I mean, Alvin Kamara is still the lead back, but Murray has a big enough role that I could see starting him against Atlanta. It's not a slam dunk play or anything like that, but if you're desperate, I think Latavius Murray is a good option. Guys, let's go to the wide receiver position. Let's see, I'm looking through here right now. There's a lot of obvious plays. Would you guys say Jameson Crowder at Cincinnati gets to that level, Derek? Is he a must play against Cincinnati?
Oh, I don't know about a must play. We've just seen the target share with Sam Darnold be so all over the place. And Jameson Crowder's had his weeks where he's been targeted a lot. But then, just like every other pass catcher, he's also disappeared. Sam Darnold is spreading the ball out. I don't think Jameson Crowder...
Like last week, he had 18 receiving yards against Oakland.
I know, and everybody was like, okay, but it's Oakland. And I'm like, this just feels like one of those weeks where Robbie Anderson rears his head. And look, poof, there he goes. I don't think that Jameson Crowder's a must-start for me. What do you think, Tags?
I am with you. I don't think he's a must-play. I think he offers a stable floor, but I don't even know what that floor is because, like the Bengals, teams against them have averaged just 15.5 wide receiver targets per game. That's the lowest number in the NFL. Over the 8 games with Demaryius Thomas on the roster, Crowder has received 49 targets, Thomas 47, Robbie Anderson 40. So if that holds true and like the targets against the Bengals holds true, we're looking at like 5 to 6 targets for Crowder. And we saw last week in a good matchup, it's like we saw Darnold go off, but Crowder had a bad game. And I think this is a matter of like, if Robbie Anderson is, like becoming more a part of the offense, if Demaryius Thomas is over this hamstring thing, Ryan Griffin looks like he's a good play, but he's not guaranteed targets. Le'Veon Bell looks fantastic in this game. So it's like, there are so many people on this team that can kind of take it. So there's like a wide range of outcomes. And can we see another 2-catch, 30-yard game for Crowder? Absolutely. The matchup is good, but I don't think he's a must-start, no.
So, Tad,
the reason... Sorry, go ahead.
There's a guy that I think that's going to fall in the same bucket for people, but is a streaming guy, and I think you might like the call, considering the little bit of homerism, some Bears love. But I'm really high on Anthony Miller this week.
Yes, baby, let's go.
Dude, I am all over him as a great play, and I think if people have Crowder and Anthony Miller sitting out there in the waiver wire, man, I would be playing him over Crowder 100 times over right now. And people are going to think, like, listen to this and be like, all right, that's just a hot take and a crazy call, man. But I really don't think so, man. Like, y'all talk to me. Talk me off this ledge. I
love Miller this week.
Ahead, Bobby,
I don't have him that high. Like, Jameson Crowder's ECR 24. That's why I asked about him. I'm like, hold on a second. Is this guy a slam dunk star? Because I don't think so. I've got him at 37. I've got Anthony Miller all the way up at 41, guys.
I'd still probably go Crowder, but I don't think it's crazy to say that Miller would be a better play. The reason that I can't really like totally trust Anthony Miller is because like there have been like 4 games where he's seen 7+ targets, and there's been 7 games where he's seen 1 to 3 targets, and it's like the Bears like all of a sudden forget that they drafted this guy in the 2nd round, that he was a playmaker, that he was a touchdown scorer last year, like he was one of the highlights of their offense, and it's really odd. He should be a part of the offense, and if he does get 6-7 targets in this game, I would love him, and I would play him over Crowder. I just don't know.
He has 20 in the last 2 weeks, man, and now he gets Detroit.
Well,
yeah.
Fun fact: do you know who his only 100-yard receiving game is against?
The Lions last year. Was it?
Yep.
Yeah, and Allen Robinson did play in that week. I do remember that game.
Yep.
Wait, yeah, all right, yeah. I'm trying to remember which game it was against the
That was
Lions.
the Chase Daniels game, wasn't it?
It might have been. That's why I was saying. I knew there was one game with Trubisky and one with Chase Daniel. I don't even know if Allen Robinson played that game then against them. I don't think he did. I could be wrong. But either way, Justin Coleman started out the year strong for the Lions, and he's really struggled in coverage over the last 2 months. He's not been good. So Miller can win the matchup. It's just about the targets here. And him and Crowder are honestly similar plays this week. I don't think Derek's crazy here at all.
No, I don't think so either. I think most people, if they're following along on ECR, are going to be like, hold on a second. Anthony Miller, ECR 60. Jameson Crowder, ECR 24. I think Miller's going to go up throughout the week. I think Crowder's going to come down throughout the week. And I don't think it'll end up being that close, but I definitely don't think it's crazy. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions this week already about Michael Gallup. He's got a matchup against Buffalo. Kenny Galladay's got a matchup against Chicago. They're still locks, right? I mean, they're still in your top 30, right, Derek?
Oh, I love Michael Gallup this week. You kind of talked about bringing up DFS. Like, if you're playing the Turkey Day slate, he is a lock for me. I love Michael Gallup because Levi Wallace is hot trash. He has been absolutely terrible this year. And he goes under the radar because everybody's so worried about Tre'Davious White. Levi Wallace has just been eviscerated this year. The guy has been terrible in coverage. So even if you want to say, okay, well, White's going to shadow Cooper, if he does actually, quote-unquote, shadow him, dude, Dak is going to pepper Gallup. We're going to see a ceiling game from Gallup this week.
Yeah, I actually said that Gallup, I would consider him a high-end wide receiver 3 who could surprise this week.
Yeah.
The question is do they shadow? And I don't know if they do. Tre'Davious White, he has, I think there's only been 1 or 2 games this year where he's shadowed, so it hasn't been a consistent thing.
Do they shadow Cooper? Do they shadow Gallup? I mean,
well,
Gallup's
right,
been
and
better.
that's why I'm wondering if they shadow, because if it was just Amari Cooper and Randall Cobb and Cole Beasley or something like that, then yeah, but Gallup is he's not somebody that you just forget about. You can't just be like, oh, you know what? Let's worry about Amari Cooper, who hasn't really done much the last few weeks. That's probably playing through an injury.
He's got to be banged up, yeah.
So, I mean, well, you could see him. He's limping around the field. He's been playing through it all year, but that's my only concern with Gallup is that they don't shadow. And if they don't, then Amari could have a big game.
Sure. Yep, I agree with that. And Kenny Galladay, is he in your top 30 against Chicago Tags?
I mean, depending on the quarterback situation. But, yeah, as long as Driscoll's out there, then yes, I would play Galladay. Galladay is actually
only 9 targets the last two weeks, though. He's not getting it done.
No, I know. Believe me, I know. But Galladay, hold on, I'm going to pull up the stat because I wanted to make sure that I said it. I found the stat. It was over the Bears. Here it is. The Bears have allowed 20 performances of 14-plus PPR points since the start of last year. 20 of them. Galladay has accounted for 15% of them. He's done it in every 3 games. All 3 games he's played against them, he has finished with 14-plus PPR points. He just gets it done one way or another. And yeah, I'm not a big Bo Scarborough guy, and I do believe that the Bears can score on the Lions. So I'm going to play Galladay provided Driscoll starts. But if he's out, then I mean Galladay has to move down to. I mean.
He's still in my top 30, man. I mean, just
he probably still would be, yeah.
So I've got Gallup and Galladay starts.
I might be going against the grain here. Actually, out of the Lions receivers, I like Marvin Jones a little bit more, only because I think he sees a little bit more of Kyle Fuller this week. But didn't Prince Amukamara get knocked out of that last game? Is he healthy or not?
He was I think he's going to be fine. Okay. I obviously watch these guys every single week, and they're both beatable. I mean, I'm not worried about Kyle Fuller. I'm not worried about Prince Amukamara. Amukamara could be beat deep. He's actually a pretty, around the line of scrimmage, he's actually pretty good. But if you go over the top, if you have some speed, Galladay can get over the top. Mm-hmm. And we saw Galladay score a touchdown on just one garbage time, late deep pass against the Bears when they played a couple weeks ago. So it's more like betting on regression for Marvin Jones because the targets weren't amazing, even with Driscoll, but it's more of he's just been more efficient. So yeah, it's a rough situation though, but it's one of those arguments that you always play your studs, right? And I just can't see sitting Kenny Galladay.
So I'm looking at wide receivers ECR 30 to 35. I'm just going to list them off. You guys tell me if there's one that you're excited about or one and one that you're, not excited about, and you've got them quite a bit lower. Terry McLaurin going up against Carolina. Sammy Watkins face Oakland. Robert Woods at Arizona. Tyrell Williams at the Chiefs. Tyler Boyd faced the Jets. Dede Westbrook faced Tampa. Deebo Samuel at Baltimore. Derek, who do you like? Who do you hate out of this group?
I'm lower on Tyler Boyd probably this week than most. I know a lot of people are going to have been playing him out of necessity every single week. But in the slot versus the Jets, Brian Poole has been a guy that we've picked on in previous seasons. But with the Jets, he's actually been really good. His splits playing in zone coverage versus man, and Jets run a lot of man coverage, have been out of this world. He's actually playing. He's been a very good cornerback this week. So I'm a lot lower on Tyler Boyd. And probably higher, if I'm high on Goff, then I got to be higher on his weapons, and that's going to be Robert Woods. I think that Robert Woods can have a very good game this week.
What do you think, Tags, about these 6?
Yeah, Woods would definitely be the preferred option for me as well. Like Brandon Cooks has been a guy that's been relying on the deep ball, and Goff he's not completing passes down the field. So I do happen to like Woods quite a bit. Okay. And he lines up. He's not. I don't even think he's going to be in Patrick Peterson's coverage a lot of the game. I think he'll be with Byron Murphy majority of the time. So I would definitely say Robert Woods of these guys. I just can't trust McLaurin with Haskins as his quarterback as anything more than like a risky wide receiver 3. And Woods is someone that's actually like extremely due for some touchdown regression to the mean, where it's like he should be someone that, like, I want to say Davante Adams scored last week. So is he the last one with like more than 400 yards who hasn't scored a touchdown? I think, I can't remember the exact stat, but he has 663 receiving yards on the season with no touchdowns through the air. So eventually that's going to catch up. And if we do like Goff, Woods is definitely a guy that you have to like.
Well, Tags, I think him and Mike Williams are kind of fighting out for who can
Williams
go the
too. That was the other
scoring
one.
a touchdown this year.
Yeah, Davante Adams
they're both
was
like
the other
such
one.
touchdown guys. Like, how the heck did this happen?
Oh, we're all like, the air yards, and it's going to regress, and then every
Did
single
you know that?
They're both
did you
getting
guys know
free
that
this week. That's
Davante
what it
Adams
means.
had over 500 yards coming into last week without a touchdown? He finally did score, but yeah.
I like quite a few of these guys. Now, in order, I've got them. Sammy Watkins is my number 1. Woods is my number 2. I like Dede Westbrook against Tampa quite a bit this week. Terry McLaurin got a lot of targets again last week, like it's Dwayne Haskins. But for me, the one guy who doesn't belong in this list is Tyrell Williams. Like, what is he? The last month, what has he been doing? 3 receptions, 4 receptions, 2? Like, Cincinnati, Detroit, the Jets. If he was going to get it done, he would have done it in these matchups. He's not doing it against Kansas City. I've got him outside my top 40, guys.
He's essentially been Robbie Anderson. Just
exactly.
He had touchdowns at the beginning of the year.
Everybody's still loving. They still remember what he did week 1. That's all this is.
Right.
And they're like, to double down on your point, what has he done since week 1? He had one game where he had 91 yards and a touchdown, and past that, he's done squat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bobby,
I
just want to say I'm with you on Dede Westbrook, man. I looked at that game earlier today, and the Bucks, they were without MJ Stewart the last 2 weeks, and they even had their backup to their backup because, first off, they cut Vernon Hargreaves, went to MJ Stewart. He got hurt. He's missed the last 2 weeks. They had Murphy Bunting covering the slot. He was injured with a knee injury. Over the last 2 weeks without MJ Stewart in the lineup, which he's bad already, they've allowed 15 of 19 passing in the slot for 144 yards and a touchdown. Westbrook saw 9 targets last week. It's the only issue with Westbrook is that, like, we have to. I think we all love everyone in the Jags passing game this week. It's impossible not to against the Bucs,
especially if they're going to keep throwing the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, Conley is seeing over 7+ targets per game. Chark is obviously the number 1. Westbrook,
is Conley startable for you?
Oh,
he's borderline. I think that he's like in wide receiver 4 territory for me.
Me too.
I put him wide receiver 3. I was on Conley last week and it didn't pan out. I'm doubling down, baby. I'm going back.
Well,
to
he
him
got
this
9
week.
targets. Like his
air yards were like 3rd
and his air yards
NFL.
were identical to Chark.
Yes.
I actually like him more than Dede.
Yeah.
I would rank Chris Conley above Dede this week.
Wow. All right. I think Conley's a pretty dang good football player, and he gets Tampa Bay, so I'm glad he's finally getting the targets. Looking forward to seeing what happens. I think he's a solid start. Let's go outside wide receiver 3 range. So we'll start at 36 with Will Fuller against the Patriots. Anybody from that range on, I want 2 names from both of you, at least. You can throw in more if you want, that you would feel comfortable starting. Tags, why don't you go first? I'll round up a few names, and Derek, why don't you get a few ready as well?
From what point back?
36.
Oh, okay, outside top 36. AJ Brown is someone that I think I could play. I think Corey Davis and AJ Brown are interesting plays this week. The Colts
They're so volatile. You would feel comfortable playing him against Indy?
I do, just because Indy's been terrible. Like their secondary has been where you attack. You can't run the ball on them, so Derrick Henry's not going to be their avenue to move the ball this week. He's just not that guy. So I think that both receivers can be viable. I'm going to have them both in wide receiver 4 territory.
And they got the number 2 quarterback in all of fantasy football since he became a starter.
Yeah. Ryan Tannehill has been really good, dude. Like, he hasn't thrown the ball a whole lot, but against Indianapolis, he's going to throw the ball a lot more.
And he can run, too, man. Like, holy cow, this guy.
You got to love it for him. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so fun. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Tags. Who else do you have besides Brown and Davis?
No, yeah. I mean, Anthony Miller would have been another guy that I definitely would have mentioned. And if you're looking for a Hail Mary play, Allen Lazard. As I mentioned, if Aaron Rodgers goes full Aaron Rodgers this week against the Giants, which is absolutely friggin' possible, pay attention to the weather, obviously, in New York. Yeah. But Lazard is playing as the number 2 receiver. Like, he's playing well ahead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And if they do use Janoris Jenkins to shadow Davante Adams, you're going to see Lazard mixed up with DeAndre Baker, which is, well, the best matchup in football.
All right, Derek, who do you have for us?
So, Chris Conley, I already spit some love on him. So, obviously, I like him. He's down in that range. But for me, it kind of comes back to, like Tags is talking about, if Aaron Rodgers goes just full God mode this week, then I like the New York Giants. I really like their pass catchers. Now, we know Tate has, the concussion issues, but Darius Layton and Shepard, both of them are down there. I mean, look, if you look at Green Bay, they get this rap as being like a really good pass defense.
Because they were for like 3 weeks, but since then they've been mediocre at best.
Yeah, they're in the mid-20s in explosive pass rate allowed. You look at Darius Slayton, since the guy was made a starter since week 6, he's leading the team in air yards. And if you look at, I've been on Darius Slayton in various weeks versus the Jets. I was all over him. And in this week, I think is a week you go back to it. So whether Tate's in or out, obviously if Tate plays, then I think him and Shepard can both have great games as wide receiver 3s. And I actually like Daniel Jones as a sleeper this week. So, like we're talking about, I like Goff, so I like Woods. If I like the quarterback, I got to like his pass catchers, too. So, it's the Giants,
Sterling Shepard's averaging 9 targets per game.
I was actually just about to say, I didn't even realize Shepard was down that far. I would have said him, too. That's
it's crazy he's that low.
Yeah, and
it's early enough in the week that some people, I think, might not have realized these errors in their rankings, and they'll come up. But Shepard's in my top 35.
Well, Golden Tate has the toughest matchup on the field. Like, the Packers have been really good against the slot. Jamal Williams has done a fine job. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. But on the perimeter is where they can be beat. And Shepard, he could go over to Kevin King or so Shepard or Slayton. I do believe one of those guys has a big game.
Agreed. I like a lot of these guys at the top. I don't feel bad about starting Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, these guys have been wide receiver 3s, low-end wide receiver 2s during the bye weeks, but now that every team's back, hey, they're flex plays. I would feel good about them. Marquise Brown, Curtis Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders. If I'm going really deep, though, I love Russell Gage on Thursday with Julio Jones out. I mean, even when Julio missed a portion of the game.
Julio's out?
Well, he's not out, but I'm assuming he's going to be out. He's not practicing. He was yanked from the game. It's a short week. If he's out, I'm starting Russell Gage this week. He had 10 targets last week against Tampa. New Orleans has not been playing as well in their secondary as they were at the start of the season. I don't think Russell Gage is a bad play at all. What do you think, Tags?
I think Julio's playing. I just don't think Julio practices anymore because, well, he's Julio and he doesn't need to practice.
I guess. But they're also not in playoff contention. Like, why would he rush back?
Well, I get that, and he had this injury before this game, but he was forced to leave the game. He ended up coming back into the game, so he did come back in the game. So I assume he's fine. I think it's just rest, but Gage is still a fine play. Like I'm with you on that one. And like the deep one, Nelson Agholor. If there's so much ifs, ands, or buts with that Eagles team right now that I don't want to talk about it, but if Alshon Jeffrey were out, Nelson Agholor would be a top 36 play for me.
So I'm glad, Derek, you mentioned that Tyler Boyd is going to be covered by Poole because I love Auden Tate for that reason this week. If Andy Dalton's going to be playing keep up with Sam Darnold and the Jets' horrible secondary, I think Tate could have a big game.
Well, and if we're going down even further up below Tate is N'Keal Harry.
Yes, that was the next name I was going to mention. Let's go.
Yeah, if we're deep diving into this, then I think N'Keal Harry has got to be, I would start him over Tate. I would start him over Lazard. I think that the Texans, the way you beat them is through the air. And
and Sanu's going to be out again. Dorsett's probably going to be out. Edelman's banged up.
Well, and Harry had a low game last week because he was on the outside versus Byron Jones. And they're two big guys. Yeah. Byron Jones is going to be physical, and that's why you saw N'Keal Harry not get much run of anything. Now, Brady, if we get Brady come out and he's ticked off at the world and just determined to show that this pass game does have some life, N'Keal Harry could have a really, really good game.
Yep. All right, guys, let's go to the quarterback position. I'm just going to name the top 6 really quick. Tell me if you guys have any disagreements. It doesn't matter about the order. These guys are all must-starts. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers against the Giants, and Jameis Winston against the Jags. Any problems with any of those guys?
I mean, Jameis Winston, I wouldn't have at 6, but I don't have any issue if you want to start him.
Yeah, okay, so I think Winston's the only name that stands out to me. Okay. It's a little bit rich considering if we like Ronald Jones as much as we do, then how much do we believe Winston probably does in this game? But
he's in your top 10 though, right?
Yeah, he's scraping in the top 10. I'd have him more closer to 10, 11-ish for me.
So here's how we're going to handle quarterbacks this week, okay? Derek, you give me 2 other names outside of those 6 that you feel good about starting. And then Tags, you're going to do the same. I'll give us 2 more at the end.
Well, the first guy, I mean, we're talking about Tampa. It's got to be Nick Foles for me. I would start him in a heartbeat this week going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have just been eviscerated. They're allowing the 2nd most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. They're allowed the 2nd most passing yards and passing touchdowns. So I love Nick Foles. Also, I like Sam Darnold this week. We're talking about against the Bengals.
You took my 2 guys, dude.
Oh, man. Look, you got to love him. I mean, I love how we're in lockstep with this, but ever since Sam Darnold, apparently he must have called Ghostbusters because ever since he saw Ghosts, man, he's been a different quarterback, and a lot of that comes down to him not seeing pressure. 67% completion percentage, 250 yards per game. He's around 7.8 yards per attempt over his last 4 games, and the Bengals cannot pressure. They're 28th in adjusted sack rate. So that's my 2 guys. Sorry to steal your thunder,
It's
Bobby.
okay. I've got several more. Who do you have, Tags? You going the easy route? You taking Matt Ryan and Kyler Murray?
Well, Matt Ryan would be there. Carson Wentz would be there, I think. It depends on the receivers.
You say Carson Wentz?
I would go Carson Wentz if I knew his receivers were playing. I'm assuming they are right now, but I'm going to move them down if they don't.
16, man.
Yeah, I don't get that. But Jared Goff, I'm going to go with. Again, I'm totally fine with playing Jared Goff this week, and if you look at the matchups that he's done well in really, really easy matchups, and the Cardinals justify as that. Like, they've allowed 2.7 more fantasy points per game to quarterbacks than any other team in the NFL, and this game's in a dome. We don't have to worry about any weather. I like Jared Goff quite a bit. So yeah, I'll go with those guys.
I've actually got 4 more I'd feel comfortable starting. I'm just going to go through them quick. The first 2 are cheat codes because they run the ball. Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're playing the Rams and Dallas.
Oh, yeah,
they're
Josh
going to
Allen,
run the ball, and they're
him.
going to get free fantasy points that way. Josh Allen has been so consistent all season. Like, every single game except the one against the Patriots, he's got 17-plus fantasy points. That's who Josh Allen is. Now, the other 2, Tom Brady, because he gets Houston. You already mentioned that's the point of attack. And then Ryan Tannehill, because he's been the GOAT. Besides Lamar Jackson, Tannehill's been the GOAT since he became the starter. And again, you attack them through the air. Now, nobody mentioned Deshaun Watson faced New England. I've got him outside my top 16 guys. Would either of you be comfortable playing Watson over a Nick Foles, over a Jared Goff?
I probably would over Foles, over Foles, just because I know Nick Foles isn't very good.
Yeah, but he's throwing the ball 45 times a game.
I know. It's because he's been inefficient, though.
Yeah.
Like, I put Dak Prescott over Nick Foles, not because I like Dak Prescott this week, but because
nobody mentioned Dak either. He's ECR 8 going up against Buffalo.
Well, I put him over Foles just because I can't justify doing it. So I always try and think about my lineup and, like, can I justify putting in Nick Foles over Dak Prescott?
Okay.
No, but I would justify putting in Jared Goff over all those guys.
Jared, I'm sorry, Jared. Derek, you're all in, aren't you? You're going over Dak Prescott, over Deshaun Watson, aren't you?
Oh man, it's rough, man. You've seen Watson crumble under
if I have
pressure.
to make the fantasy playoffs, I'm playing Nick Foles over either of these guys this week.
And you know what? And I actually say that I agree with that because Watson, we've seen him fold under pressure. Because that offensive line is not that much improved this year. The Patriots are going to bring it versus him. Just considering if you just be kind and rewind for a second and look at what the Ravens did. And they don't even pressure as well as the Patriots do. So I don't hate the call at all. Yeah, I'm all in on Big Nick this week.
Well, also, I'm in Deshaun Watson the last 3 weeks. 28 attempts, 29 attempts, 30 attempts. The volume's just not there. Like, why do we not play Kirk Cousins? He's awesome. Well, because the volume's not there. Same with Deshaun Watson. He doesn't throw the ball a ton either. And Nick Foles, again, averaging 45 attempts. That's going to come down. But if he throws the ball 38 times, guess what? That's basically an extra quarter of football that Nick Foles gets. Guys, let's go to the tight end position. And finally, we've got a lot of these tight ends back. It's not so horrible this week. Kelsey, Ertz, Henry, Kittle, Andrews, Jared Cook, Darren Waller. We got 7 of them. We can breathe. Greg Olson's probably in the conversation either. I can't imagine either of you would bench him. Outside of those tags, give me one name you're starting.
I mean, you said Jared Cook? Did you say Dallas Goedert?
I said Cook. I didn't say Goddard. He's number 9 on my list, so I mean, he would have been next. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't gotten through all the games, but he's gonna be in my top 6. I'm fairly certain.
Top 6, all right.
I think so. I think there's plenty against the Dolphins. I mean, again, there's a lot of ifs with the Eagles team right now, but I feel confident in Goddard. I mean, I think it's just been one game over his last 5 or 6 that he's finished outside the top 12 tight ends. So that's a good floor for a streamer.
Guys, I'm playing Goddard over Mark Andrews if I have the choice.
Same.
You are too. Okay, a lot of people are going to scoff at that, I'm sure. Awesome, guys. Let's go. Yeah, because Mark Andrews gets San Francisco. Derek, who do you feel good about outside of that top 7?
I think this week, man, I think it's O'Doyle rules. I think with Ebron gone, you look at the splits with Ebron on and off the field, and Doyle's target share and red zone target share just jumped through the roof. I mean, his target share goes from 3 to 21%. His red zone target share goes from 8 to 20%.
Yeah.
We've wanted for so long for this Colts tight end position to get down to one guy. And I'm saying this with the idea that Mo Alley Cox is not going to be the second wheel in this idea. So I love O'Doyle, and I think he's going to rule the week.
All right. Jack Doyle is ECR 13 right now. Dallas Goedert 9. Other guys in the top 12, Ryan Griffin, Gerald Everett, Jacob Hollister. Kyle Rudolph is at 14 because of Seattle, but it's touchdown or bust with him. Noah Fant's all the way down at 16. He's been getting a lot of targets. For me, there's 2 guys that I like. One of them is, we already mentioned him, Gerald Everett, ECR 11, because he gets Arizona. Like, I know he's not getting the targets, but he gets Arizona. And then all the way down to ECR 22, and this is funny, because I've been the anti-TJ Hawkinson guy all year, but he gets Chicago, guys, and Chicago's been bad against tight ends. Now, I know he's not really getting the targets, but again, this comes down to he's got the third-string quarterback. What do third-string quarterbacks tend to do? They check down, target the tight ends over the middle of the field because it's safer. I think Hawkinson might actually have a good week this week.
I don't think the Bears are a good match. I know that the fantasy points against says that they are, but I mean, even going back to the start of last year, we're talking about a sample size now of 27 games. There's been 2 tight ends to top 49 yards. That's it.
I just worry about David Blah.
Yeah, and they had a 3-way timeshare at tight end last week. Like, they split snaps with him now, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with Hawkinson, but
I mean, I've got him outside my top 12. Don't hear me wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you're streaming, would you rather go with Hawkinson or Mike Gesicki or Dawson Knox?
I would rather. I'd go Dawson Knox or Ryan Griffin.
Over
Hawkinson.
Ryan Griffin's not out there though. He's owned in most leagues. He's ECR 10, by the way.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know who's a sleeper tight end? I don't even want to say it, but
say it.
I will. Nick O'Leary.
Who? The guy for Nick Foles, because Nick Foles loves tight ends.
Well, no, I mean, so the reason is because Nick O'Leary was the team for 1 week. Like, he played his first game with the team last week, and he saw 4 targets, caught all 4 for 36 yards, going against Tampa, who is legitimately just a step below Arizona in terms of how bad they are against tight ends. So he can kind of like go under the radar and steal some like love from like the DFS like guys that we're gonna love, like Conley and Chark, and we're gonna like be swearing at our TV because Nick O'Leary scored a touchdown.
That is such a good call, Tags. Let's go on over to DST, and there are so many options this week. I mentioned on yesterday's show, 9 of my top 12 are available in over 50% of leagues. Obviously, we're playing against Dwayne Haskins. He's got Carolina. Obviously, we're playing against Miami. They've got Philadelphia. Who else are you certain is a good play this week, Derek? Give me 2 names.
The sad thing is that the Steelers are probably owned in every single league, and I would have picked them up, and I'll stream them all the way.
They're available in over 50%.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe that, because they're top 5 in pressuring the quarterback.
Yep.
Since they got Minka, they're number 2 DST in all of fantasy.
Yes.
They're one of only 2 teams, them and the Patriots, that have scored double-digit points they're averaging double-digit points. So I cannot believe they're that widely available. That's absolutely insane. I would ride the Steelers and not even pick up another defense all the way for the rest of the season.
Yes.
But the second team if I am anti-Joe Mixon, if I truly believe, as disgusting as it sounds, it's the Jets for me. And I know Andy Dalton's coming back this week, but the 8 games with Andy under center, he's still the 7th most sacked quarterback. He's thrown 8 picks. I talked about Brian Poole going against their best receiver in Tyler Boyd. Even if A.J. Green is back, we can't project him for more than, 50% of the snaps. The Jets, if you are struggling, and every DST is picked up, the Jets are not a horrible play this week.
You just named number 1 and number 2 in my rankings this week. Congratulations. We're in lockstep here with a lot of stuff. Tags, who else do you feel really confident in?
I mean, I have the Bears up there, the Ravens.
Yep.
The Ravens are probably owned in too many leagues, but people dropped them thinking they were playing the Rams. I don't know why. I loved them against the Rams. The Steelers were mentioned, and
Patriots, obviously.
I mean, yeah, I don't
even against Houston. Yeah,
I mean the Jags are not a bad play. I mean the Jags defense. I know that they've mailed it in and whatever, but if you kind of look at it, and it's the reason I don't like Jameis Winston this week, because like if you look at what they have allowed to quarterbacks, people will see that they've allowed, I think it's like the 13th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. If you take away the rushing touchdowns that they've allowed just the 10th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks on the year. They do still have a pass rush. It's not great anymore, but at the same time, Winston is the king of turnovers. So that's why last week people were playing the Falcons defense, because it was like, all right, they're playing against the Bucs. Why not? So I don't think you should ever cross off a defense that's playing against the Bucs.
I got 2 more I'm excited about. Packers at the New York Giants, because Daniel Jones with all those fumble problems. And then Cleveland Browns going up against the 3rd-string quarterback for Pittsburgh. What do you guys think?
I like it. I think the Browns are still a little bit a tick below for me. If the Broncos were out there, I would play them over the Browns this week.
I agree.
All right, guys, that's all for today's show. Derek, it was a pleasure finally having you on. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely, guys. Look, thank y'all for having me. This was an absolute blast. I know Tags is fighting through it under the weather, but this is a good show, guys. A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Derek.
Appreciate it, man.
Feel better, Tags.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our featured videos as well. Also, make sure to click that red subscribe button to get notified when we post videos in the future.